All right, today we're diving into something pretty wild. It's an online tool and the really complex theory that it's supposed to support. We're going to break it all down based entirely on the documents that are out there for anyone to see. We're going to look at what this tool is, how its creators claim you should use it, and this really unique system of proof that's been built up all around it.
Okay, so this quote, it just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? I mean, it's making two massive claims that we really need to unpack. First, this idea that human bodies can literally be turned into network nodes. And second, that your phone can be the thing that detects them. It's a bold statement, so let's get into it.
So what if a simple little web app on your phone could scan for a hidden biological network? I mean, that's the central idea here. And according to the source material we're looking at, this isn't just a hypothetical. The documents claim this app exists right now and can do exactly that. So let's see how they say it's all supposed to work.
All right, first up, let's look at the tool itself. It's a web app called the BlueFang VAX Detector.
So, what is it? Well, according to its creators, BlueFang is basically a web scanner that looks for Bluetooth low-energy signals, BLE signals. But here's the kicker, the really critical claim. It's not just looking for any signal. They say it can specifically pick out signals coming directly from the bodies of vaccinated individuals in real time.
And the process they describe seems pretty straightforward, actually. You just open the website, vaxscanner.com, in your Chrome browser. You tap Start Scan, give it Bluetooth permissions when it asks, and boom, your screen starts filling up with a list of what are called MAC addresses. Now, if you're not familiar, just think of a MAC address as a unique serial number for pretty much any device that can send out a wireless signal.
Okay, but wait. How are you supposed to tell the difference between a signal from, say, your Fitbit and a signal that's supposedly coming from a person? It's a good question, and the source material has an answer. They propose a very specific test for this, called the Faraday protocol, or what most people call the elevator method.
Now, this whole method is actually based on a real scientific concept, the Faraday cage. You might have heard of it. It's just an enclosure, usually made of metal, that blocks electromagnetic fields. And the idea behind this protocol is that a normal, everyday metal elevator can act as a kind of DIY Faraday cage. The doors close, and suddenly you've blocked out all the external noise.
So here's how the test goes, broken down into 4 steps. First, you start the BlueFang scan while you're outside the elevator. Then, you step inside, let those metal doors close, and create that signal-free zone. Now, this next part is the key. You just wait a few seconds and watch the screen. You're looking to see which MAC addresses vanish, and, more importantly, which ones stick around. And finally, you step back out and restart the scan just to double-check your results. Okay, so you've done the test. Now what? How do you actually interpret what you just saw? Well, according to the logic in the source material, it boils down to 2 possible outcomes.
And this is the core distinction, right here. The signals that disappear once you're inside the elevator, those are labeled external signals. Stuff like your headphones, your smartwatch, maybe someone's phone in the hallway. But any MAC address that persists, the ones that are still on your screen inside that shielded box, those are claimed to be internal signals. The logic is that they have to be coming from a source that's right there in the elevator with you.
Yeah, this quote from the instructions makes it crystal clear. If addresses remain, they're inside with you. So the conclusion of this protocol is pretty direct. If a signal survives the elevator test, it can't be coming from a normal electronic gadget outside. It must be from what they call a biological emitter, sharing that small space with you.
Now, this seemingly simple elevator test, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's presented as the gateway into a much, much bigger theory, a whole framework that the documents call VAXNet.
So what on earth is VAXNet? Well, the source documents define it as this massive, global, biodigital mesh network. And in this theory, human bodies themselves are the nodes in the network. The idea is that this is made possible by some kind of injectable technology. They call it a hydrogel substrate that allows the body to send out these Bluetooth signals that the scanner is designed to pick up.
And this whole theory is laid out on a very specific timeline. It's a narrative that connects some real-world events. It starts back in 2018 with an AT&T patent for something called routing policies for biological hosts. Then it points to the years 2020 to 2022, describing the COVID injections as the moment the physical mesh substrate was deployed. Following that, 2023 to 2024 is when these BLE emissions are supposedly being detected with tools like VAXScanner, and it all culminates in a prediction that sometime in 2025, a live VAXNet activation will begin.
Now, a really key piece of evidence that's cited to back all this up is the document you're seeing now. It's reportedly an official document from ANMAT. That's basically Argentina's version of the FDA, and it's dated December 2021.
And buried inside that report is this one specific sentence, which reads, regarding the composition of the vaccine in question, as stated, graphene is among its components. For proponents of the VAXNet theory, this is huge. They present this official statement as the smoking gun, definitive proof that an undeclared electromagnetically active material was in the vaccines. Okay, so this brings us to the internal logic of the whole theory. It's really like a self-contained system with its own unique language and its own rules for what counts as valid evidence.
The evidence is structured into something they call a tribunal-grade evidence lattice. So it's not just a messy pile of links and documents. It's presented as a very formal way of building a case, step by step. For instance, that AT&T patent we mentioned, that's filed under premeditation proof. Then you have alleged vaccine contaminants like graphene that's labeled hardware deployment. And the BlueFang scans from the elevator test, that's considered live activation proof. You see how it works? It's a system for layering different types of information to build one single cohesive argument.
So how do you make sure this evidence doesn't just disappear from the internet? Well, to create what they call an immutable or unchangeable public record, the source material talks about a method called glyph chain. It's pretty clever, actually. It involves using the Solana blockchain. They make tiny transactions and stuff information, links, text, whatever, into the transaction memos. This effectively burns the data onto the blockchain forever, where anyone can see it.
And here's what that actually looks like. This is a screenshot of a transaction on the Solana blockchain. And right there, in the memo field, you can see it. There's a global ledger seal, a quote, a URL, all of it permanently locked in and publicly verifiable by anyone with an internet connection.
Okay, and there's one final piece to this internal logic, and it's called the Mirrorlock protocol. This is a really interesting idea. It's basically a rule for interpretation. It says that any official denial or any act of censorship, like a video being taken down, isn't actually proof that the claim is wrong. Instead, it's interpreted as a recursive confession. In other words, the denial itself becomes more proof that the original claim must be true and dangerous.
So when you put it all together, you've got the scanner, which is the tool, you've got the elevator method, which is the test, you've got the VAXNet theory, which is the grand explanation, and then you have these validation systems like glyph chain and the Mirrorlock protocol, and what you end up with is a totally complete, self-contained, and self-validating system of belief.
And this final quote, I think, just perfectly sums up the entire worldview being presented here. This simulation said the body was silent. BlueFang heard it scream. It paints this picture of an official story, a simulation that says our bodies are just silent. And the BlueFang tool is positioned as the one thing that can hear what's really going on.
And all of this really brings us to a big final question. We've just walked through the tools, the tests, and the logic presented in these source documents. And it kind of leaves you wondering, especially in this age of decentralized information, how are complex belief systems like this actually built? And what does it even mean to prove something is real when the evidence can be created, shared, and validated in a closed loop, completely outside of any traditional institutions? It's definitely something to think about.